like to take you back to just a month ago when times were simpler. Jason Kidd still had a job. Blake Griffin was still a Clipper. The secret passageway between the locker rooms at Staples Center was just a regular hallway back then, people. It was a two-man race at that time for the MVP. LeBron James was really actually taking the inside track because James Harden had just gone down with a strained hamstring. Who knew how much time Harden would miss? Who knew what he'd look like when he came back? Turns out, didn't miss much time. As for how he looks, pretty damn good. Last night, Harden notched his first 60-point triple-double in NBA history. And I loved everything about it. First, I love that he did it on a night when both Chris Paul and Trevor Ariza sat out the game injured, and Eric Gordon also left early. Those three guys are averaging a combined 51 points a game for Houston, so it easily could have been a night the rest of the Rockets just threw up their hands. But from the moment James dropped this crazy dime, look at this. This is on the Rockets' opening play. Harden made sure that lackluster feeling just didn't happen. There have been years that James has been criticized for his leadership, and years that, frankly, he deserved it. But this is yet another example of how he has evolved. Then, of course, there was the way Harden scored. Have you seen his shot chart? You can have the Mona Lisa. This becomes high art, and the brushstrokes get even more beautiful as we roll the video.
Whoa.
Look at him. Oh, come on. Gotta love that. Look at him work Evan Fournier and finish with, of course, the buzzer-beating step back. Here, the step back. Oh, and here's yet another thing I absolutely loved. Calvin Murphy screaming, cheering. For 40 years, Murphy has held the Rockets franchise scoring record with 57 points. And yet, if you watched him last night as the camera kept going to him, he was one of the loudest in the building cheering for James. You could see him mouthing, shoot, shoot, every time James ran down the court, especially here, releasing that three-pointer, and there it was, record broken. Look at him. Afterward, lots of talk about how if Harden does indeed win the MVP this year, this will be one of the signature moments. And I agree, but not just because of what happened on the court in Houston. It will also be because of what was happening at almost the same exact minute up in Detroit. The Cavs had lost Kevin Love to a broken hand, yes, but they were still playing with more of their starters than, say, the Rockets were down in Texas, and still with at least twice as much talent as a severely undermanned Pistons team that was caught without players due to their trade. And yet, Detroit scored 125 points last night, 68 in the paint. Isaiah Thomas finished the night a minus 25. And LeBron James, not looking like an MVP, just 21 points, 0 in the fourth quarter, 4 turnovers. This is the kind of night we're used to seeing LeBron step up, take over. Instead, that was happening down in Houston. What a difference a month makes. Tracy, I mean, we saw it last night, 60 points. James has got to be your front runner for MVP at this point.
It's no question. Nobody is even close. This guy was my front runner before he got injured. Had a little minor setback when he came back a little bit. It was a little rusty, but last night he showed why he was my front runner. I mean, this was a tremendous, performance by him. 60 points is great, but to also have the 10 assists and the rebounds to go with it, I mean, he was working. He was cooking last night. I mean, it also came against the worst opponent in the NBA.
Yeah, but he had no one with him, right? I mean, you don't have Chris Paul, you don't have Trevor Ariza, you don't have Eric Gordon.
Not to take anything away from this triple-double performance, it was spectacular. But I got to go on the other side. And I hate to talk about my former team, but this was a bad coaching job. When you don't have no Chris Paul, when you don't have Trevor Ariza, Eric Gordon only played 10 minutes. I was watching that clip. You know who was out there on the floor with him? Baramute, P.J. Tucker, Capella, and Ryan Anderson. Who was the other playmaker? There was no playmakers out there. Nobody. Get the ball out of James Harden's hand, please. Nobody's out there can make plays other than James Harden. You let him go one-on-one. He's the best one-on-one player in the league. This was a terrible coaching job.
You're saying that this is basically Toronto Raptors against Kobe, where they just let him keep shooting?
Let him keep, absolutely. I mean, look at it. He's the best one-on-one player.
He's doing the breaststroke on the court.
Which is amazing.
Listen, if P.J. Tucker and Baramute are going to kill me from outside, I will live with that. I can't allow him, not when he doesn't have another MVP candidate, which is in Chris Paul, out on the floor with him.
Well, so you say it's not even close for MVP.
No, you
think it's not even close?
I don't think it's close either. I mean, I think he's been the front runner all year. It would be very interesting to see how the voters would have reacted had Chris Paul played the whole season, because typically voters want to go with the undisputed only star on a team. But I think he's been clearly the front runner. The Curry case will be interesting, because he's missed 15 games, and only one MVP since the league went to an 82-game schedule has ever missed even that many games. That's Bill Walton in 78, but he's been ridiculous for the best team in the NBA. So that's going to be, and then you have like Giannis and AD, whose teams aren't quite winning enough to get in the race. So I think it's clearly Harden.
This is James' trophy to lose.
Well, it's interesting because you talk about can Steph or KD ever win another MVP with each other on the team, right? Because there are voters who just feel like, hey, you got that other guy taking away coverages, defenses, and making it easier for you. You can't be an MVP. Chris Paul doesn't do that to you, though, in James Harden's case, Tracy?
No, not this year. Chris has also been in and out of the lineup a little bit, but James has been pretty consistent. This is his time to win it. I mean, last year he thinks he got snubbed, not winning it last year. But I mean, we've seen a historic performance out of Westbrook, and even 2 years ago, he had a phenomenal year. So this is his time to win it. And
with Curry and KD, would you ever pick one of them when they're both on the same team together?
It'd be hard for me to.
I could.
You could.
Yeah, but to me, they also have Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. So they have 4 of the 12 to 15 best players in the league. Houston and Golden State are close in the standings. If I'm going to give it to a Warrior, it's got to be one of those years where they're just so much better than everybody else.
Right. And James is obviously the reason that they're close in the standings. So I do want to take a minute to talk about Rasul Butler, who the LA County coroner has confirmed died overnight in a car crash. Rasul was 38 years old. He's a former 13-year NBA veteran, but those are just numbers. What everyone around the league will remember is Rasul the man. Funny, hardworking, a teammate's teammate from the moment the Heat drafted him in 2002. And no, he never had the talent to be a superstar, but he knew how to play his role. He knew how to show up every day, even when everyone else was tired. Let's put it this way. He knew how to impress Pat Riley, and Pat is not an easy man to impress. And when Rasul fell out of the league in 2012 at age 32, everyone just kind of assumed he was going to retire, but instead he did what he always did, which was go back and work harder. He spent a season in the D-League, riding the buses, proving himself all over again, and earned his way back into the NBA, going on to play for 3 more teams. There's a lot of people in a lot of cities who are going to be mourning Butler's passing today. You can count those of us here at The Jump among them. We offer our deepest condolences to his family.